from those individual staff members. They're motivated by that sense of ownership that you're giving them, or rather that they're taking. I don't want to make it seem like it's anything given. It's something rather that you provide the opportunity for them to take, just by eliminating some of the organizational bureaucracy. One other brief example, we're driving alternative revenue projects through our finance and circulation divisions because we realize we need to help cultivate these revenue streams. It's a very complicated project, but there's several staff members responsible for managing what we call our poster store. It leverages our content in a way that students can hang posters in their dorm rooms that aren't generic posters, but are rather posters that are created for the Dartmouth community by the Dartmouth. And we've had so many fresh ideas coming from these students. I am sort of convinced that the way to motivate these younger leaders is to give them that ownership. Earlier, Ron mentioned innovation in his presentation, and that innovation comes from these fresh ideas. Scott mentioned continuing education. He was talking about formal continuing education, but for me, this sort of giving students this sense of ownership, those fresh ideas, that is another aspect of continuing education. Professor Samwick, he mentioned leadership does just not come from one formal leader. That's just not the way it can work efficiently, especially when you have things evolving so quickly through the web and the latest technologies. And lastly, Dorica mentioned that in her study group, she redirected questions to others who were in that study group. And in doing that, she brought in the talents and the ideas of those younger members. So these 2 points, recognition and a sense of ownership, they're both very related. In fact, it was hard to make them 2 separate points because they're rooted in similar leadership practices. For me, I believe leadership is necessarily motivating other leaders. And doing that is both giving the recognition where it is due, as I believe Ron had mentioned earlier, with the example of Tom Brady. So giving credit where it is due, that's the recognition part of it, that only comes when you give that sense of ownership, so that these individual leaders can empower the organization with their fresh ideas. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. We have a few minutes if people have any comments or questions. There are some microphones.